No matter who you are, it seems, you're always one tweet away from screwing up your career. Even a comedy giant like Steve Martin went astray with a tweeted joke that seemed racially insensitive. How do you spell lasagna? This depends on whether you're in an African-American neighborhood or an Italian restaurant. Now, Martin quickly deleted the tweet and apologized, but still got hammered online for days. This followed the explosion that took place when Justine Sacco, she was the PR chief for Barry Diller's media company IAC, tweeted this awful message. Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Sacco took all kinds of abuse while she was on the flight, and when she landed, IAC fired her. She apologized profusely, but it was too late. So, Judy, what is about the Twitter culture that is so hostile that when people make a mistake, they still get beat up?
I wish it were just the Twitter culture, Howard. That's the problem. There's been a kind of decline of civility in our culture. It's across the board. Twitter is just the tip of the iceberg. When you have a Martin Bashir say what he says about Sarah Palin, when you have Alex Baldwin, on and on and on, from Miley Cyrus. I mean, we are just no longer sensitive to the opinions of others. And, of course, Twitter is going to be the forum where that's most obvious.
It was very important to work Miley Cyrus into this segment.
I had to, yes.
Now, Salon misquoted Martin's tweet, and in a way that made it appear he was suggesting that blacks can't spell. And TMZ picked it up, and Steve Martin writes, "It continued to spread, and I couldn't get out of hell."
Yeah, well, first of all, Twitter is a weirdly humorless place. So you can't, I don't know if anyone's ever tried sarcasm or irony. Don't do it. Don't try it. I mean, it's just, two things are completely lost. And so I actually think these two tweets are completely different. And what happened with Steve Martin, he was making a joke, I guess, you know, thinking that it sounded like lasagna. Lasonia sounded like lasagna or something. But, you know, it's just best not to do anything racial. That's another thing.
But when it was,
that's just a rule of life.
Or religious.
Yeah,
right.
When it was 70 degrees in D.C. in December, I tweeted, boy, now I'm pro-global warming. I got attacked for that.
Yeah,
like, no humor.
Right.
But even when Salon corrected that misquote I referred to, the Steve Martin says the website left the headline racist tweet. And so then it continues to haunt you.
Well, that's a problem online, is that we're moving so fast online, and you put up a story quickly, and then you realize, oh boy, I need to correct this story. You throw a correction at the bottom of the story online, and then that's what you can do as a reporter, but the editor never gets in there to actually make the change to the headline. And the second point about all of this is I think that apologies really don't matter anymore. Martin Bashir apologized. You know, that was an extreme case, but, you know, it doesn't matter when you say, oh my gosh, I really made a mistake. And people lose their jobs sometimes, I'm not saying in these cases, but sometimes for the wrong reasons.
Well, Justine Sacco wrote later that she was ashamed for being insensitive to the AIDS crisis. She's sorry for the pain she caused. And what she wrote, you know, there's no dispute there. It was stupid and it was offensive. But then she was practically burned at the stake while she's on a plane, unable to respond.
Yeah, she was ready. I mean, they were all waiting for the plane to land. You know, has it landed yet?
I don't quite understand. I mean, I haven't gotten a satisfactory explanation for what the joke was and what. I mean,
it made no sense.
It didn't make sense, and it seemed. Yeah, very insensitive, and you do have to wonder, do you want somebody to be your spokesperson if they're going to do things like this?
Right, but you had tens of thousands of people using this hashtag, has Justine landed yet?
Right,
yeah.
And it seemed to me it was sort of a mob scene over a woman that virtually no one had heard of before.
It's a Roman forum on the air. It's, you know, fingers up, fingers down. If the Twitter sphere decides you've gone over the line, you are toast.
And part of it is that there is a competition to be short, to be fast, to be witty. And so if you put all of those things together, it's an explosion, and it leads to pushing the envelope for people in a way that they normally wouldn't do.
On that point, Jeff Bercovici of Forbes magazine, who knew Justine Sacco, I've never met her, of course I work for the Daily Beast, which is part of IAC, he said that she had noticed in a lunch she had with her that people seem to like tweets that are a little bit risque or outrageous. So apparently she was trying to get attention, and then you see what happens.
Well, everybody is. Everybody wants to increase their Twitter followers because that gives you more clout in the Twitter community. And in order to do that, you need to be really edgy. And then it's groupthink that happens. You know, everybody thinks, okay, well, if this person piled on, who's my friend, and this person piled on, who I respect, then it's okay for me to pile on.
Do you buy Judy's analysis that this reflects a coarsening and a meanness in the broader culture? But even if it does, isn't there something about Twitter with its sort of lightning speed, and sometimes people don't use their real names, they have these stupid handles, that encourages this sort of viciousness?
See, I tend to think people have probably always been this way, and that now they just have an outlet for it. So
we've handed the people who have always been this way a giant megaphone.
It just brings, you didn't used to have a situation where somebody could get out and just mouth off and just say something, right? And they don't, and for some reason they don't think there's going to be any kind of blowback. I don't know why, but when somebody, I mean, Justine Sacco may not be a public person, in the sense she's not a celebrity, but she is a representative of.
She had an important job. I'm just saying she wasn't famous.
Yeah.
Who at this table? She is now.
That's right.
Or briefly infamous.
Right.
So who at this table spends a lot of time reading their Twitter comments? What people say about them?
Forget it.
I don't know.
It's a disaster.
You've all made a decision not to do it.
I used to, but I don't.
You used to.
Yeah.
And then
I used to when I had fewer followers and I felt like I had more of a relationship, and now it's just become
a dysfunctional relationship.
Toxic. No, it's very toxic.
No, it is.
It's actually very toxic.
And especially for women.
Especially for women, because it's all derogatory comments, not just about the substance of what you're saying, but about your looks. There are death threats. There are, people saying, oh, you're incompetent. I mean, why read all of that stuff?
I'll be trucking my Twitter feed right after this segment, and we'll see what all of you have to say. Judy Miller, Kirsten Powers, thanks very much for joining us this Sunday. After the break, A&E decides that, hey, you know what? There's really no need to suspend Phil Robertson from Duck Dynasty after all. What's behind that big bucks decision in a moment.
Your love, your mercy, it's through him I pray. Amen.
This is George. The day building a playset begins with a surprise twinge of back pain and a choice.
Take up to 4 Advil in a day, or 2 Aleve for all-day relief.
That's handy.
Don't disguise bad odors in your trash. Neutralize them and freshen with Glad Odor Shield with Febreze.
There's one more gift left to open this week at Men's